Hi everybody. Yesterday I did a storytelling session with Joe, and he assisted and supported me to walk through a point that I had been struggling with, that had come up in a dream. And I have to say I was pretty skeptical about sitting down with Joe and using a dream as the subject matter to do a storytelling session. Um, but if you watch the session, then you'll see how he actually uses the information to derive basically the themes and be able to support and act as a sounding board and kind of show you where you can look deeper into symbology or information that comes up. So I will include a link in the description box to a little bit more about what Joe does with his storytelling. It's called Transformational Storytelling with Joe. So enjoy my session, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.
All right.
Okay, so first tell me what comes up for you. Just don't think about it too much. Just the first instinct, I want to talk about this, and then go
Okay.
with it.
Okay, so it's a recurring dream that I've had, varying on the theme,
Mm-hmm.
and the emotion in the dream is so intense, and I can't work through it in the dream.
Okay.
And I recognize the situation, having come from real life, as something I struggle with in real life. The same kind of experience
Okay.
I struggle with, but it's like from back, you know. So that's why I wanted to talk about it, because it's not been resolved.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What is the dream?
Okay, so it's reoccurring, but kind of a different story. It
Okay.
has to do with someone significant in my life, a girl, a woman. And in one of them, I want to warn her of a danger. You know, we're just kind of comfortable, relaxing on a beach, on an island, and I'm exploring and I find a frog and I'm like, wow, cool, look at this frog. And then I take a picture of the frog, and in the picture I see there's a giant python behind the frog. And I want to warn everybody. This is like urgent, you know? And the person is like, oh, you're overreacting, you know, come on. And I'm just like, it's as if all my words are like air, you know? It's like I have no effect on anybody, because this one person has made this comment towards me, or isn't convinced by me that it's like I can't, you know, do any. I'm like powerless now in the situation. And the other dream was where I was, you know, I have a sweet tooth. I love candy, and I often dream about it. So,
Okay.
in this one, I go to the candy store, and I'm like, yay! And I buy all the candy I want, so this is like a great dream so far. And then this person is like, you're obsessed with candy, and, you know, just kind of goes into this judgment of me. And again, it's like as if all of a sudden my experience is like invalid and bad and wrong, and, you know, it's kind of like a pleasant thing going. So these dreams, actually, they sound like they're not really related.
But there's a theme.
Yeah, like for me, they were consecutive nights, and the common threads that I can see are disempowered and invalidated, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in the dreams, like the dream just ended because I was like, I don't know what to do. Like that person's right, and now I'm just, you know.
Okay.
That's it, like dead end.
Okay. Have there been other dreams as well that had that same theme?
Probably, but just nothing's coming up. So.
Okay. So let's work with that for now. Okay, tell me about the frog dream. And so this time, so now we got the nice version out. Okay, now we're going to start digging. Okay, so let go of wanting to sound nice. I'm going to start asking you some more probing questions, and then we're going to start to see what's under that, because there is a theme. I can see it, but we need to articulate it a bit more.
Okay.
Okay, so as much as you can remember from the beginning of that dream.
Okay, so I'm on a beach, I see a frog,
Okay.
I take a picture, and I see in the picture a python. And my experience is, this is real.
Yeah.
This is threatening those around me. I absolutely need to speak this and let this information be known. And I mean, it was really just seemed like honest concern.
Yeah.
And then when the person who, it was very condescending and like without hesitation, just didn't believe me.
Was this a man or a woman?
It's a woman.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a significant woman.
Okay.
In my life.
Okay.
And it's like, just I was so shocked that what I wanted to express wasn't received. And actually now a memory's coming up.
Yep.
Is when I was in elementary school and I got the results of my math test, and I was looking at it and I was checking all the parts, the ones that were incorrect, to see, to do them and correct them. And one of them that I went to correct was actually the correct answer already. So it had been marked wrong, even though it was right. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get a better mark. This is great. So I went to the teacher and I was like, this one is actually right. And when she looked at the paper, she saw that it had been erased. But that was when I was doing the test. I had erased and written the answer. And she just looked at me and she said, that's called cheating, my dear. And I hadn't, but it was a teacher. It was like this authority figure. And I couldn't even defend myself.
Right.
I was so shocked that I wasn't believed, when I was being honest.
Yeah.
That I just went back to my seat and took the bad mark.
Yeah.
The worst mark. And it was the exact same experience where it's like, it just shuts me down, It's like I don't even know what to do because I'm telling the reality of the situation and it's not received.
Was the teacher female?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's like I become so emotional in that moment that I can't even ground myself to calmly explain or,
Yeah.
that it's not so. It's like as if I had given these authority figures absolute authority over reality, so that even what I know to be reality is right in front of me. If they say no, then
right,
it's not so for them, so what am I supposed to do?
Have you read the book 1984 by Orwell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or was it Brave New World? I always get them confused.
So 1984 is there's a dictatorial regime and they get to tell you what history is.
Okay, no, I didn't read it.
Okay. So there is a theme there of 1 + 1 is 2, but if the regime says 1 + 1 is 4, it's 4. So there is that frustration of like, it's not so much that they have power over you, it's that they're robbing you of your reality and your truth, and that is the injustice.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a little bit of that theme there, but behind that, okay, how old were you about when that happened with the teacher?
I was probably 9 or 10.
Yeah, that's usually the spot where these imprints happen. It's between about 6 and 11, that kind of window, where these things start to happen, and you start to, I call them imprint events, right? So this happens, and maybe other events similar to this have also happened, but this one left a distinct mark. It was like a turning point.
Yeah.
Where something clicked in you, and it's like, it's like this. And what tends to happen is we start to hold on to that, especially when we're between those ages, and when we're between 6 and 11, we don't quite yet have ourselves mapped out. So we're operating on a particular version of what we think the world should be and what the general rules are. But when something violates that, then we're knocked off. We go into stress.
It felt like a short circuit.
Yes.
You know, it was like, cannot compute.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So when that happens, particularly when we're younger, I find, those leave very big marks. So what tends to happen is because we could not process it at the time, it kind of becomes absorbed. We kind of carry it around, and we start to form our personalities and our thoughts and our worldviews around it. So we start to have things like, people are not trustworthy. The world is not trustworthy. Things are not always fair. Good people get taken advantage of. But those things are rooted in that imprint experience. So for you, the fact that it's a female, the fact that it was a significant shift for you. Meaning it was like somebody literally took your map of the world and just pulled it off from the bottom of your feet. And now you're like, wait, but how, but who? So in that conflict, that's where these things start to get bottled up, particularly when we didn't have the words or the support to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'll mark that for now, and then we'll revisit. I think there's a bit more in the frog story. So let's put a pin in that for now. I'll put 1984 to remind me, because that's relevant to the theme. But okay. So you saw the python, and you had this sense of there is imminent danger.
Yeah. And something that I've been working with already just in my real life has been, when I see a problem or something, I committed to myself to act. And there was one time I was having coffee, and across the street there was smoke coming out of a window of an apartment building. And I look around and everybody's just like, oh, and nobody's doing anything. There's no fire trucks there. So I was like, well, I have to do something, you know, and I went and I rang every single apartment doorbell until somebody opened the door for me, and I ran up to the apartment. I don't know what I was thinking I was going to do, but I wanted to see if there was a fire. And when I went in there, it turned out to be someone drilling just gyprock and creating that white smoke that looks like fire. But that is something that I had been working on, to not let fear or uncertainty or groupthink. It's like, if nobody acts, then you don't also act because nobody else is.
Right.
I didn't want to fall into groupthink. So it was something that I would say successfully developed in myself, is the ability to speak up, to do what I know is right, regardless of what's going on around me, regardless of what other people are doing. And so in that I've integrated. And so in the dream, it's like I took that, and it was so natural for me to speak up about something. And so that part was cool, you know. It's like I saw something, a danger, and I wanted to warn the people, but they had to depend on my word, because for some reason in the dream, like, you couldn't see the python unless you looked at the picture. Yeah. So it was me that they had to believe, not reality, because they couldn't see that. So it's like I had to convey information about reality without having anything to prove. So it was just me. And if they didn't believe that, I mean, that's the same thing as with the teacher. So I couldn't prove it. I just knew. And so when I don't have something to back up my story, something to point to, some physical evidence, then if someone doesn't believe me, I just feel powerless. So it's like, in a way, I don't feel like I can't depend on myself, my reasoning abilities, my ability to express and communicate, to, I don't know if convince is the right word, but to show my truth, which I see as the truth, you know, because I know it's the truth.
Okay, there's something in there. Does anything come up for you within the word permission?
Well, nothing clear.
Okay.
But like when I think about it, it's like they didn't give me permission to have my truth.
Yeah.
Or to express myself.
So this is kind of more of a subtle thing, but it's kind of like a part of you is angry. Let me see. Give me a second here. Just feel it out. Yeah, there's like a resentful, it's like a really uncomfortable, like, it's not righteousness because it's not about your ego. It's more like it feels like injustice.
The word infuriated comes up for me.
Infuriated, okay, yeah. Infuriated.
But it's like instantly suppressed.
It's like you shouldn't have to deal with this.
Yeah, yeah.
That right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's pretty specific. I can feel it. It's like, okay. Yeah, why do I have to deal with this? I shouldn't have to deal with this. This is so evidently what it is. I shouldn't have to prove it. But within that, what can happen a lot is you start to take that personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it feels like it's because of me that they're not listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Something's related to permission here. Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you do have that point of you're willing to be devil's advocate, meaning you're willing to go against the grain when you see something and it needs a response. You will respond. So that is a part of you. That is part of your nature. It's your expression. But within that, there is an insecure side of you that sometimes feels like it wasn't given the permission to act according to its own nature.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I haven't given myself permission. When you said permission the first time, I was thinking like them giving me permission.
Yeah,
but
it's like giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
So there is that thing of like, there's a little bit of that self-doubt, self-insecurity that kind of can cause you to stumble.
Self-trust too.
Self-trust. So it's that point, that's like a point where it's one of your possible character arcs here. You remember character arcs?
Yes, I love character arcs.
So this is a potential character arc for you.
Yeah.
It's that point of giving yourself the permission. It's kind of like you are the authority, and then you made an executive decision.
So can I take a stab here at what I learned from you last time and see if I can tell the progression?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, I notice something that's wrong.
Yeah.
And then I have to make the decision to speak up about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I go through the process of, I got to speak up, which has now become more automated, natural for me.
Yeah.
So I build up the courage, and then I express myself and expect everybody to say, yes, oh my gosh, you're right, look at this.
Mm-hmm.
We will now correct this or take action.
Right.
That's my expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get nothing or the opposite, and I just fall flat.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, I think, the kind of build up to the character arc where I express it, where I fall flat, and I go down to repeat the cycle.
Yes.
Instead of reaching that character arc, being confronted with the obstacle, and then
yes, exactly.
going up and not repeating.
That's right. Yeah, that's the cycle. Okay. And it's coming through very strongly in this dream, and also in the memory you shared about the teacher. That is the theme. That is the pattern that's been stuck. It's that feeling of it's actually you not giving yourself the full authority. And to know that even if they don't respond accordingly, you responded accordingly. And nobody can take your reality away, but you have to advocate for it. So you have to have that starting point of, I see this, my understanding of it is that's incorrect, that needs a response, I will respond. Okay, and they're not hearing me or they don't believe me.
And I have permission.
But, I'm still gonna say it. And okay, maybe they can't hear me right now, so I have to maybe wait. Or maybe I have to let go of my expectation of how I'm going to be received. But how I show up is still my responsibility. So it's kind of like that you let go of needing the validation or the acceptance of others. But you unapologetically embrace that part of you that is like, no, 1 + 1 is 1. And for me, that is true. And there's nothing that anyone can say that's going to cause me to doubt myself for saying such. Right? So that's kind of that.
So even if everybody else doubts me or doesn't believe me.
It's kind of like it doesn't matter. Because for you, it's more important to have that sense of being willing to speak the truth and show up as that truth for yourself. Because otherwise you wouldn't forgive yourself. You
but
know
so
that.
Yes, I do know.
Yeah.
But so that the outcome, so a shift in focus, that's what's important.
Yeah.
Not,
it's
I
more
can't
like,
control reality.
Right, but you can control how you show up.
Yeah.
You control how. So it may play on later on that they realize, oh shit, Kim was right.
When they get eaten by the python.
Kim was right. There was a python. Hey, where's the frog? Oh, damn it. Damn it. Kim did say that. She did say that. But if you approach it with like, okay, they're not listening to me, and then you become antagonistic, then there's even more evidence for them to not only not listen to you, but to avoid listening to you. Because then it becomes apparent that it's about you and not about the truth.
So that's my potential negative consequence if I continue.
Yes, right. So it repeated several times. So even though you're the person to speak up, if the speaking up is coming with that charge and then the antagonism, that is actually what people will pick up and respond to. Yeah. It's one of those blind spot things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that's the continued negative. I'm not saying that's how you are.
No, I
So,
know. No,
yeah.
I can see that. It's not so common in life to be in these situations where something happens and like a fire or a snake or whatever. But I can see if that were to continuously happen, that it can eventually lead to becoming antagonistic and like maybe too forceful. But actually, there's lots of degrees of this situation. It's about speaking up and speaking your truth. And in these situations, I was absolutely certain of that. It was reality.
Yes.
But sometimes you're not certain.
Right.
But you still have to speak up.
Right.
That's a matter of developing the self-trust. But if you're not there yet, does that mean you just don't speak? I don't think so. Like, you got to put it out there regardless. Because like you said, it's a matter of showing up and putting it out there.
Yeah. And
those expectations, you have them and you don't have that absolute clarity yet. That those expectations might prevent you from even speaking at all, and then you'll never learn.
Yeah.
So to shift the importance to speaking, but being open to whatever may come, and knowing that you did your best, because you may be not received, but that's not what matters. Those people will walk their own process and their own lives, and
How important is it to you that 1 + 1 = 2? Is it important enough for you to be in an uncomfortable social situation?
Well, yeah, because I know it's true.
So if you're genuinely operating from that, then cool. Another blind spot could be when you're approaching it too quickly and you're making too much of a fast assumption about something. And then that tends to be an overreaction. So what's helpful there is this is a technique that naval officers use on their submarines, how they communicate. Very effective submarine groups are taught to communicate through notification. So notification is something like, I noticed this, I intend to do this. And what's cool about that is it's open. And somebody can say, okay, you see that, you intended to see that, but I see this and we intend to do this. So you're communicating the intention without it being like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
It's more like, I'm noticing this, I'm going to respond this way. And if nobody else says anything, then go forward. But if someone else is like, okay, let's check that. So they'll say, I noticed this, we intend to do this. While all of this is happening, everybody's communicating. They are speaking their 1 + 1 = 2. They're seeing, okay, this is the report, this is what I see. I intend to do this. The commanders are able to intervene when they have to. But what's cool about this and how this applies to you is that's also something you can develop where you do go with that, okay, 1 + 1 = 2 here. This isn't adding up. So you would speak, I see that this isn't adding up. I would suggest going this way. And then you proceed. But you've communicated the intent.
Yeah, and it's like, you know how I said this is from way back. What I'm seeing is that it's from a very childish mentality that everybody sees reality the way you see reality.
Yeah.
And everybody sees it the same way.
Right.
And that's how children are actually until a certain age. So as you mature, you realize that everybody's got their own reality.
Yes.
You have to take that into consideration.
Yes. And everybody has a valid point. Even if the reality is wrong, it's right to them.
Yeah.
In the same way that when you saw that smoke, you saw fire. And that was right for you.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't a fire, and you rang a lot of doorbells, and people probably got a little annoyed.
Yeah.
Or bothered, but for you saw fire, and that was the correct response. Right? So that's also something that I think can be helpful for you. It's coming from that place of notification. Like, this is what I noticed, this is what I see, and this is my intention.
Yeah, and even when the fire, I mean, that was a real life example.
Yeah.
When that happened, I was with a group of girls, my girlfriends, and I was like, that looks like a fire, nobody's really reacting, I'm just going to go check it out. And does anybody want to come? And someone did come with me. And so I wasn't like, there's a fire, go, call the fire, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so, but I still hang on to that childish, not necessarily the worldview, but the reaction from time to time comes up. And now it's coming up in my dreams, but I'm certain that there's still places in my life, there are actually, where it's like that part hasn't matured.
You're still angry at certain people and events. There's still a lingering point of, but I shouldn't have had to deal with that.
Yeah, you should just believe me.
Yes. And so there is that sense of feeling wrong, that sense of injustice, that irritation, and that's what's anchoring it in you. That's like the seed from which it's being grown and fed and repeated.
It's kind of like swallowing the tough pill that people shouldn't necessarily just believe other people right away. So I'm not special, you know. I'm also not going to be believed right away, especially by adults.
Right.
So to consider, other people's realities, and that, you know, they've lived a life where they've probably been deceived and been lied to. So taking that into consideration, realizing my presentation, the setup, like the intent, explaining myself more instead of just speaking and expecting to be believed without question.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool.
I actually feel very relieved.
Yeah, the lingering thing for you is to look at where you can release their specific memories of when you have become angry, irritated, and it's kind of like that imprint is still there, and if left unchecked, it can keep like reinserting itself. It's kind of like a computer virus. Like you can uninstall it, but it's installed on a much deeper system.
Because
Right?
I had written out that experience with the teacher, because I knew that was lingering. I've written that in self-forgiveness. But there's also the beginning of my process too.
Yeah. So what's cool now is you can actually go back and release the attachment to it.
Yeah.
Because now it's a different story. Now you're realizing that they didn't do that out of malice to you personally. According to the teacher's frame of reference, the teacher's 1 + 1 was, this is very likely a cheat.
Yeah. So like I forgave myself in
Yeah.
the situations, but I didn't forgive them.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and I can place myself in their shoes, and I'm certain in my life I've treated somebody else that way,
Yeah.
where I didn't believe them or
Yeah.
kind of discredited them because it wasn't true for me.
Right.
So to place myself in their shoes, forgive them,
Yes.
and be able to totally let it go. And
Yeah. The perception of truth is subjective, meaning what's true for one person can also be untrue for another, and both could be correct, because this is the problem of perception. So, but when you understand that, you're able to get to that common ground. You're able to say, okay, if I were in your position, knowing what I knew, or knowing what you know, I would probably arrive at the same conclusion.
yeah.
So I can't hold that against you because I'm operating in the same way. It sucks because I feel like you should have been able to trust me, but we're not yet in that kind of world.
Yeah.
So when you have that, you're able to understand that person, understand that teacher, their starting point, and let go of the attachment, because at that point it's no longer fair to hold on to it. It's kind of like, okay, it's fine, I can let it go. Doesn't help.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
does that get to the root for you?
Totally.
Yeah.
It does. I'm impressed. I was skeptical a little bit that you'd be able to work with the dreams, but no, amazing.
No, thank you for being my guinea pig.
Yeah, I love it.
That's interesting for me too. When you're dealing with dreams, you're dealing with a lot of symbology, but you can trace the symbology to what they mean emotionally and find the words and find the story.
And just kind of guiding me through the dream, digging a little bit, the memories start to pop up way more clearly.
It came up like boom.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
It's like hit me off the head, you know, like this memory. And it's funny because I had a long time ago asked you, or you had offered to do this session about the dream.
You were hesitant.
I was hesitant because I didn't think you could work with the dream because it's not real.
Yeah.
But now I get it.
Yeah.
And also I had been kind of trying to think of how it would play out with you. And I was thinking about that dream over and over, being like, okay, well, what's in the dream? What's
Right,
he gonna see?
yeah.
But it never came up with that memory.
Yep.
So that's really cool.
Cool.
I mean, not
Awesome.
just the memory, but like all of what we were able to extract.
Yes. So can you define now for yourself your character arc?
Yeah. I realize my truth, and that's true for me. I see something that could potentially use some intervention. And my normal character would immediately flatly, not even put any effort into creating a kind of picture to communicate, to offer to the people. Like, you know, maybe you should be aware of this.
Yeah.
So that's my character. I'm not received well. I fall flat and feel powerless and angry, and I take it personally, and then I just do that again and again. So my character arc is that moment before I speak is where I need to now consider, okay, who are the people I'm talking to? How am I going to present this? Why am I going to present this?
Mm-hmm.
Do my best to communicate it, and without expecting to any kind of reception. All I can do is show what I see and support along the way if possible. But if it's not received, I mean, yeah, then I can push it if I think it's very important, or just drop it and realize that I've done my best and let it go after.
Cool. Are you satisfied with that?
Yes,
Is that
very.
actionable for you?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
I don't see that we need to go deeper. I think that gets what you needed.
Yeah,
So
totally.
cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
No problem. My pleasure.
Yeah, I'm just checking if there's anything I would need to write about.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably do my forgiveness from the shoes of others and just write out my self-corrective statements so it's more concise.
Yeah. So the last part of the storytelling exercise is to review what would happen if you don't make the arc. What would you be creating? Can you see those events happening?
Yeah. What would happen is I think I'd become like a ticking time bomb because I would suppress the frustration, the anger, also the disempowerment, and the helplessness.
Yeah.
So if I suppress it, it's just going to grow.
Yeah.
And I'm going to live out aspects of my life completely disempowered, feeling like I don't have a voice, feeling like I isolated, and resentful and more likely to burst out in anger when I see something, which is just going to make it even worse and more exaggerated version of what I've been experiencing.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to take that well if you, command something in anger or any emotion, resentfulness. And I mean, that's all they're going to hear. And they're going to probably think I'm crazy, way less likely to listen to me. So
another potentially negative growth of that character would be when you get enough confirmations from people's reactions that you're not going to be listened to no matter what. You can also get to that point of breaking where you go, well, if nobody's going to listen anyway, then I'm justified in doing whatever I see is right. And then you start to justify things that really you shouldn't be justifying. And then you stop communicating.
Yeah.
And then you start to do things. But it's coming with that spiteful resentment towards everyone and towards the world and towards yourself. But that's kind of like that really dark turn.
Yeah, but I also see like a path I would more likely, just with my nature, would be starting to not question my reality, but discredit it. Yeah. And listen to what they're saying. Because they're not going to listen to me anyway, so I got to learn how to play in this
bandwagon,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just with process, I had made the decision not to be like that. But, if, let's just say I had grown and continued the pattern, that's more likely the way I would have. Just like, don't speak up, there's nothing you can do anyway, so might as well just let it, and then sit there angry and frustrated.
Yeah. That, though, is what enables that turn, that darker turn.
Okay.
That I'm talking about.
That's like, yeah.
So you take that, and then so you're sitting in that frustration, right? That resentment. You will only be able to maintain that for so long, maybe a few years before it starts to. It's like a cancer that metastasizes at that point.
Okay, well, I don't want to go that way.
Right.
Or any of the ways that we just talked about.
Yes.
So, I mean, last time we did a session, I identified my character arc, and I did behave differently, and I totally changed the course of things, and new things opened up.
Yep.
So it's almost like I look forward to kind of having this situation arise in my life again, so I can.
Yeah, another thing I would suggest is become that now. Meaning, sometimes people will say, okay, I can't wait till the next time I get to live that. I'm like, no, you're already that. You don't need to wait for a situation and create a situation and then prove that you got the arc.
Yeah.
The arc is like, you got it, now you can not live that. Now you can just start creating.
Well, yeah.
And not even repeat. So.
That makes sense, because all that we really determined was when communicating, consider the other.
Yeah.
You know, look at how you're communicating it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can apply that every day.
It's that principle of that self-permission.
No expectations,
Yeah.
self-permission,
Yeah.
Responsibility. I mean, the situation that brought these out is an uncommon one, but the kind of qualities and skills are every day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, so I can start living that now.
Cool. Yeah, I find it's helpful to visit the dark, negative consequences, because it really lets you see, and you can flag it ahead of time. Because sometimes, you know, when we're trying to become something new, the old pattern sometimes comes up again.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have that map of like, okay, if I say yes this time, then I'm one step closer to that negative. So I don't even want to go there.
Yeah.
So. It's
a good reminder.
Yeah, that's a good tool. When you're actually, a lot of times we play that game of, oh, it might not be so bad. Oh, I've done it so many times. But when you have that map of like, okay, you can say yes now, but it's one tick closer to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to even go there.
No, I don't want to be that
like
person.
At all.
And it's not inevitable.
Mm.
You know, it can happen
Mm-hmm.
if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's cool.
All right.
That's all I have. That's all I have for you.
That's awesome.
That's it.
That was really helpful.